Good evening, YouTube, and welcome to the Pipe Report. So, the DNC won their lawsuit. And for those who don't know what happened, essentially, the DNC was sued for colluding against Bernie Sanders. Now, I am not a progressive. I do not follow, or I should say, I do not agree with progressive policies. That being said, the only thing I really want to hear is the truth. And I know that may sound sanctimonious, but it's not. It doesn't matter where the truth leads. The only thing that matters is the truth. And the fact is that Bernie Sanders did get screwed. Now, I don't support him. And I think his policies would bankrupt and destroy America. But he did get screwed. It should not have been Hillary Clinton. The DNC should not have won this lawsuit. They used their power and their influence to win. And the judge, he even acknowledged that the accusers, those who sued the DNC, were actually correct in their accusations. Here's what the judge said. I saw this on Jimmy Dore video. Judge Locke said, in evaluating the plaintiff's claims at this stage, the court assumes their allegations are true, that the DNC and Wasserman Schultz held a palpable bias in favor of Clinton and sought to propel her ahead of her Democratic opponents. Right there alone. So, the DNC was guilty of it. We have seen evidence of this guilt. But since the DNC, they are allowed to do whatever they want to help out whomever they want. It is part of their prestige as a DNC. So they can screw over anyone they want, and they are not actually breaking the law. Which in itself is particularly telling of how corrupt and crooked our political system is. It's insane. And people still like to try to listen. People like to believe that our political system isn't actually rigged or anything of that nature. That's why when I see people like Wasserman Schultz, who just looks like a criminal, who is a criminal, and Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi, and Paul Ryan, and the Turtle, Mitch McConnell, and John McCain, and all these dinosaurs in Congress, I laugh because these people still get reelected to their positions. They still have seniority in their positions, and people allow this to continue. We need a complete overthrow of all of these crooked politicians that are in Congress, and just in the government in general. We need to get them out. And it doesn't really matter who replaces them. For instance, to get John McCain out of office, I wouldn't mind if a Democrat won. Now, if she or he was very far left, I probably wouldn't like it, I'll be honest. But someone like John McCain, who is a neocon, who only wants to go to war with Russia, anyone would be better than him. And I would totally support this cleansing of the establishment, this cleansing of the government in general, because we need it. Here's the article. Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, accused in a class action lawsuit of rigging the 2016 primary in favor of Hillary Clinton, was cleared of fraud in a Miami federal court last week, but not before confirming what was already widely suspected, that the DNC did indeed rig the primary. Debbie, former DNC chair, became embroiled in a political scandal during last year's U.S. presidential election after a DNC email leak. Come on, not hack. There's no proof of hacking. It's proof of leaking, not hacking. DNC email leak revealed her criticism of Clinton's rival Bernie Sanders, which Sanders supporters said was conduct that goes against the DNC's official neutrality in primary contests. The complaint, which involved 150 Democrats, accused Debbie and the DNC of fraud, negligent misrepresentation, unjust enrichment, breach of fiduciary duty, and negligence in the alleged election fix. More than half of the plaintiffs were Sanders supporters who gave money to his campaign. The suit claimed that the plaintiffs are entitled to punitive damages in addition to refunds for the money they contributed in good faith. Federal Judge William Locke dismissed the suit brought by the plaintiffs, two Miami lawyers, Jared and Elizabeth Beck. However, the DNC's attorneys never bothered refuting the lawsuit's claim that the primary process was biased against Sanders. Instead, they argued the DNC has a right to conduct primaries however it chooses, and furthermore, that Sanders supporters knew the primaries were rigged, therefore relieving the DNC of any responsibility it might have had. Okay, let's discuss this a little bit. First off, exactly how do they rig the elections, people wonder? Well, it wasn't just like voter suppression. Is they didn't let independents vote a lot of the times. The clear advertisements were toward Hillary. The DNC were supporting her, more fundraisers for her. They didn't let Sanders debate her in California when he wanted to. She backed out, even though when she was running against Obama in 08, she said a presidential candidate should debate anyone at any time. It is their duty to do so. And she backed out. And there is rumors, people's channels like Sane Progressive, there is rumors that actually Bernie Sanders won California, just that he got screwed over by voter fraud. So there is definitely a lot of evidence that Sanders did get screwed. That being said, Sanders himself endorsed Hillary Clinton then. He endorsed the antithesis of everything he is supposedly against. And he endorsed the DNC, even though they screwed him over. By endorsing Hillary, he is condoning the actions of the DNC. The fraud the DNC did. The same DNC that screwed him over. And I think that says more about Bernie Sanders' character than it does about the DNC. And I was actually in discussion on a different channel, I think a couple days ago, and someone said that, well, Bernie Sanders had no choice. He had to endorse Hillary because if he didn't, he would lose his base and he would be voted out in 2020. He would be kicked out of the Senate. And my response was, no, he wouldn't. Bernie Sanders, whether you like him or not, is at this time the most popular politician in the U.S. The Senate Democrats wouldn't go anywhere near him. They would never try to kick him out of the Senate. Because if they did so, they would lose a lot of their support. Sanders supporters are really hardcore a lot. And you know if Sanders was kicked out of the Senate, if they were trying to remove him, that they would freak out and step in, and things would go very, very badly for the DNC. So it wasn't that Bernie Sanders had to endorse Hillary because if he didn't, he was screwing up his future. No. He did so for one particular reason, and that is that it was either her or Trump. And again, if you can make your decision based on the lesser of two evils, as they say, then they're not really principles. If you run something, you say this is your principles and this what has to happen, nothing else, and then you go back on that because you are afraid of somebody becoming president, then you really never cared about them. You never really fought and believed in those principles. Bernie would have been better dropping out of the race, and in my mind, he should have ran as a third party, but he probably would have lost, and Trump would have won easily then. Or he could have dropped out and did nothing. He didn't have to endorse Hillary Clinton. He sold himself out to Hillary and to the DNC after that. His hardcore supporters still love him though, even though he did that, but he did lose a lot of his base. He did lose a lot of his base from endorsing antithesis of everything he's against. But I digress. Where's I at here? I think it's this one. This from the New York Observer. DNC attorneys claim Article 5, Section 4 of the DNC Charter, stipulating that the DNC chair and their staff must ensure neutrality in the Democratic presidential primaries, is a discretionary rule that it didn't need to adopt to begin with. Based on this assumption, DNC attorneys asserted that the court cannot interpret, claim, or rule on anything associated with whether the DNC remains neutral in their presidential primaries. Also, the court would have to find that people who fervently supported Bernie Sanders and who purportedly didn't know that this was favoritism was going on wouldn't have not given to Mr. Sanders, to Senator Sanders, if they had known that there was this purported favoritism. Zlock confirmed this in his judgment. The court must now decide whether plaintiffs have suffered a concrete injury particularized to them, or one certainly impending, that is traceable to the DNC and its former chair's conduct. The keys to entering federal court. The court holds that they have not, which means the truth of their claims cannot be tested in this court. Elizabeth Beck told Florida Bulldog that confirmation from Russian hackers released documents convinced her and her husband to go ahead with the lawsuit. Nah, not quite. You could say confirmation from leaked documents from WikiLeaks, but I wouldn't really jump on the Russia bandwagon. The lawsuit was filed based on that information. Everyone, including the people who hired us, reached the same conclusion that the process was rigged. Yes, it was rigged, and the judge even said so. But is okay for one of the two major political parties to rig things for the candidate that they want, which was Hillary Clinton. Bernie got screwed over, but at the end, Bernie realized that, you know what, even though they screwed me, even though Hillary's complete opposite of me, I'm going to endorse her anyways, just because Trump may be bad. So, it doesn't look good for the DNC, and it doesn't look good for Bernie Sanders either. Beck also launched a Facebook page that has grown to more than 57,000 followers and started the Political Action Committee JAMPAC. She has been using JAMPAC's website to post lawsuit updates and documents. So that is in a nutshell of what happened and how Wasserman Schultz and the DNC won, which I think most people assumed she was going to win and the DNC would win because they are so powerful, but it would be nice to actually see a judge rule against the establishment, to see a judge actually rule for the people and supply a huge hit to one of the two party affiliations. The DNC would have been nice. But people can't always get what they want. Mick Jagger. And I'm done.